hello.
And welcome to the Hildebrand Law Firm topic for today.
I'm Kirsten Hildebrand.
And I'm Matt Kaplan.
And we're really delighted that you're with us today because we're going to talk about a really interesting topic, and that is, do I have enough money for a trust? So I can't tell you the number of times that I've been in a session with clients and they're saying, I can't believe that we're thinking about a trust. I thought that was just for the really wealthy people. Or I went to another attorney and they said, you don't have enough money for a trust. So is that really the question?
Right. Yeah. Long story short, I don't want to give a lawyer answer and say it depends, but, it really does depend. But long story short, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It really matters what you are trying to get done with the money that you do have. What are your goals? What are your concerns? If a trust can address those, then yeah, maybe a trust is right for you. Whether you have $100,000 estate or $100 million estate, if the trust has things that can help protect whatever estate you have, then yeah, you do have enough for a trust.
Yes, I agree. I think that is the better question is, what are my goals? And if my goals align with getting a trust instead of having the assets go into probate, then that's what you should be actively thinking about doing. So, okay, well then what are those questions?
So we have five questions that are the most common ones that people always have for us. They say, maybe I don't have enough for a trust, but here are some things to consider of what a trust can help. So the first one, and one of the main things that we always try to talk about, is trust save money. Trust keep things simple. A lot of people say, I don't want a trust. I'd rather just keep everything simple with a will. No. A will is a simple document. Just because it's 5, 6, 7 pages doesn't mean that it has a whole simple thing attached to it. Trusts, they can be long documents for sure, but what they do is they make everything 10 times simpler because nobody ever has to guess, what did mom want? What did dad want? Right there in the document, everything is laid out exactly what they want.
If you want to look at it this way, the probate code in Wisconsin is hundreds of pages long and has lots and lots of detail to it and references other statutes and other sections and cross applies and this and that. Whereas a trust is your rules, your private document that has your rules in it. And so you don't have to worry about learning how to read statutory language when you're reading your trust in plain English.
Right. And one of the other things too, saves you a ton of money. Part of the reason that a lot of people want trust is because they say, I don't want to deal with a probate. I heard probate is expensive, and I'm sure we've gone over probate and all the ins and outs of that in previous videos, and we will in future videos. But when you have a trust, you never have to have a probate opened up. Your family never has to hire an attorney. You never have to hire appraisals. You never have to hire additional attorneys to represent kids. None of that stuff. It's a one-time fee for the trust, and then that trust will take you throughout life and after you pass away. So it keeps things simple and it saves you a heck of a lot of money.
Another good reason to have a trust is if you have a business or if you have several pieces of real estate, property, etc. So we love doing trusts for small businesses because there is no other way to convey that asset outside of probate except if the business is owned by the trust. Even if you have a certain number of shares in the business, let's say you own it 50% with your sibling, you can take your 50% interest in the business and have it be owned by the trust so that then if something were to happen, then it does not have to slide that asset into probate, and now you're dealing with having to appraise the business and all sorts of third parties who don't understand the history of the business and what's going on becoming involved. So that's a very fulfilling thing for us to do. Also, real estate. I have my real estate broker's license. I have since I think 2008. And I'm glad that I do because a lot of times we get people who have real estate holdings, whether it be local or even national. If you have a property in Florida, for example, then that is going to trigger a probate as well, not just here, but also in the other state, whether it be Florida or Texas or Arizona or wherever else you may have that other property. And so, yes, it is a good idea to get out of two probates if you own a second property in a different state. So that's another very, very good reason to get a trust. Not so much the dollar amount as it is the number of properties that you may have and wanting to make sure that you don't go into probate.
I love that, especially for having your own business. One thing that anyone would hate to see is you spend your whole life building your business, doing all this. We don't want your business to die with you. We don't want your business to stop because something happens to you. We want your business to live on as the rest of your legacy is living on. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is having your trust own your business.
That's exactly right. So another important thing to consider is how much privacy do you want to maintain through the process of probate? This is a very complex issue because obviously when a case is filed, when a probate case is filed, everything is public and everything is accessible. And so do you really want that for your family? And there are other implications of that. One is that you have to inform anybody who is considered to be an interested party. And who's an interested party? Well, it depends on who's alive when you pass away. So, for example, if you pass away and you don't have any children, then the interested parties could be all of your deceased siblings' children. And they could be cast all over the country, and now you're going to have to go find them. Whereas if you had a trust in place, you could name a certain individual, and then all of those other people would not have to be informed. Because even if you have a will and it names, say, a charity, and you are not giving anything away to any of the potential distant relatives that are out there, they still need to be informed and be given the opportunity to agree or disagree as to the validity of that will. So it does get really complicated that way. So especially if you think that there may be many people who would need to get informed, you want to know the top number of heirs that needed to be informed in this process?
Absolutely.
32. Yes, we had a case here where we had to let 32 people know, and they were all included because the language in this will was really general. It was basically all my nieces and nephews. So we had to hire a very expensive heir search firm to go and find all of these people. And ultimately, I don't think they got more than $2,000 each in their pocket because of just how expensive it was to even just go through the process of finding them and informing them and following through with them with everything.
And it's interesting, on the other side of the token, for trust's sake, we're doing a trust now where they want to leave everything to all their nieces and nephews. They don't have any children. They have 18 nieces and nephews. And a little bit is going to each one, and that's what they wanted.
Yes.
And because they understand that had they had passed away with just a will or even with nothing, that wouldn't have gone to the nieces and nephews.
Right.
Nieces and nephews would never have come into the picture, but that's what they want. And so a trust is super helpful for people like that. Well, could you imagine what that probate would have looked like?
Mm-hmm.
Especially they both have been married multiple times and all of that. Ugh.
Boy. Yes. So there is another good reason to have a trust in place, and that is if you have a blended family, there is no better way to minimize the chance that things are going to sort of blow up than if you have a trust and you basically put everything in that trust along with a trust protector and other measures that we have in our trust that try to minimize the ability for there to be a fight in court. And speaking of fights in court, we think that the number one reason to make sure that you consider a trust is if you have a family that could qualify as, how shall we say it, potentially disagreeable. And if your family doesn't fall into that category, call me because I want to know how that is the case. I think that every family has some potentially disagreeable elements, and even if you're thinking to yourself, well, my kids are great, we don't have any issues, everybody is very calm. What else is involved in that? Well, it's the in-laws, right?
Yep.
It's who gets married into the family
That's right.
that can be just as much of an issue.
That's right. And the amount of times that I have heard people who all of a sudden have an opinion that have no reason of having an opinion in the case, oh, things are going too slowly, or things are not going how I want it.
Mm.
How come I'm left off of the estate planning? I don't know, because you were just the spouse. Like, you in the grand scheme of this, you're not that important, okay? And so if you want to make it so that these people don't get involved, my people have a word for it. They're called mashuganas. Kirsten, you know that word very well.
Yes.
If you have any mashuganas in your family, if you don't know what that word means, look it up. I have no idea how to spell it. But if you have any mashuganas in your family, then they are going to cause a problem. And you might think, I'll be dead, I don't care. But think of the wake that you're going to leave behind, making it so that your family has to deal with all sorts of mashugananess around. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons that people come to us is they say, I have a rather difficult family, or sometimes they say, I have a great family. I just want to make it so that they don't fight with each other.
Yes, yes, all very good reasons to consider. And so, as you can see, how much money you have is not necessarily the most important question. It's really a question of what your goals are, as we said before.
Exactly.
So, thank you so much for joining us. And we are here to protect your today and your tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you again.